Ready?
Hello and welcome to Rhythm and Pixels, and I'm Pernell. You might notice this seems a little different from the norm, and that is because our family is currently going through some stuff, which meant that we would not be able to record this for this episode. But when Rob initially intended to do the mixtape idea, like we usually do for these scenarios, I thought this would be a good opportunity for me to do an episode that I had in mind for a while, but we could never quite figure out the right time to slot it in. And that episode is sound-alikes. Sound-alikes being the topic. And that over the years, I've listened to a lot of VGM tracks, whether for the show or for reviews or for just the fact that I want to play a bunch of freaking video games. And what ends up happening to me sometimes is I'll hear a track and it will immediately call back to something that I did not expect to recognize from a completely different game. Similarities uncanny to the point where I had to make note of them. And then I thought, hey, it'd be a great idea to just let the listeners get a check out on these too. Now, you might notice at least one pair of these has come up in the show in the past, but they weren't used as official tracks combined, so I feel like it's still worth using right now for the purpose of this episode. Now, also worth noting, sometimes it's going to be similar, sometimes it's going to be the same, sometimes it's going to be whatever, but I'd rather leave it to you guys to make that call, what you think, but I think it should be fun just to sit down and putz with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to describe or mention the first track, let it play, and then leave it alone, like move right into the second track, and then announce what the second track is on the return. So without further ado, we're going to start this off with a track from one of my classic games of love. This is from the game Ys 3 Wonders of Ys on the PC-88. And the track title is called A Searing Struggle, and it was composed by Mieko Ishikawa. welcome back. You were listening to Ys 3 Wanders from Ys, a Searing struggle from the PC-88, originally composed by Mieko Ishikawa. And then that was then followed up by The Forgotten Path, a track from the game Gem Power and the Lost Dimension 3D for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, and originally composed by Chris Hulsbeck. Ys 3's original PC-88 composition was done in 1989. And the Chris Hulsbeck track for Gem Power was composed sometime around 1993. Keep in mind, as I make these calls, I don't know when the original track was composed. They could have had these tracks in the kitty for years before the game officially came out. But we know when the game came out, and that's what we have to work on. So, Ys 3, for those who don't know, is a game in a long-running franchise of the Ys series, yet it is the only one that was played in the form of a side-scrolling kind of, I guess, hack and slash of sorts. RPG style, of course. Adol goes from left to right, he gets new gear, fighting crazy monsters to save the day as only the red-haired swordsman can. Gem Power, on the other hand, is a game that I have never played personally, but I really want to because it does some wild and weird stuff from what I'm used to in these kinds of games. I mean, it literally does a bit of everything. It has a side-scrolling shooter aspect to it. It has those top-down shooting slash like kind of timed dungeon explorations that Contra 3 The Alien Wars had on the Super Nintendo. And it even has space shooter segments like R-Type. This game has a whole mess of things going on. And yet, somehow, between these two games, we have this very similar sounding tune. Though, from what I came to read and learn about, Chris Hulsbeck openly admitted that he had some of his inspiration originally come from the Ys 3 OST because he happens to just love the music that came out of that franchise, or at least that game. But personally, I can't complain. They sound great on both systems, all forms. But hey, when you spot it, flaunt it. You know what to do. So, the next track that's going to come up now is, funny enough, also from the Ys franchise, but I guess maybe that's partly why I came across so many of these, because I'm just a big fan of the Ys series. But this track is called Gust of Wind from the game Ys Memories of Celceta on the PlayStation Vita. Eventually got released on the PS4 also. Composed by Noriyuki Kamikura. Welcome back. You are listening to Gust of Wind from the game Ys Memories of Celceta on the PlayStation Vita, composed by Noriyuki Kamikura. And the track that followed up on this was from the game Eyeshield 21 Field No Saikyou Senshi Tachi, and it's titled Yuhi Guts, and it's composed by Manabu Namiki for the Nintendo Wii. Now, this was the one that I'm almost positive I brought up on the show in the past because I chose Gust of Wind. I believe I chose Gust of Wind or I chose the Eyeshield 21 track. And it was just like a weird thing that just clicked. I was like, wait a minute, I can totally hear it. This is insane. And since Gust of Wind is one of my favorite Ys tracks, it clicked immediately. It was an instant connection. Now, the thing about this that's particularly interesting, well, a few things. One, Noriyuki Kamikura is not Manabu Namiki, which means these are two completely different people. I don't know if they have a relationship with each other outside of Japan or in Japan. And Eyeshield 21 was originally released on March 8th, 2007, while Ys Memories of Celceta came out in Japan on September 27th, 2012. Now, worth noting, Ys Memories of Celceta is a part of the fabled Ys 4 game block. That being 3 different games: Ys Mask of the Sun, released on the Super Nintendo, Ys Dawn of Ys, released on the PC Engine CD, and Ys Memories of Celceta, released on the PlayStation Vita. 3 completely different game generations, re-releases of the exact same game. Well, let me rephrase that. Generally, this is pretty much the same narrative, but done with completely different games. Like, they don't go to the same places half the time. Things play out very differently. But what we do know is that the music is generally some of the music is the same and some of it is different. Like, you might come across certain tracks that were on all 3 games but done differently. But in the case of Gust of Wind, it only appeared on Memories of Celceta. So I really checked for that because I thought maybe it came before Eyeshield 21, but it did not. Eyeshield 21 came out March 8th, 2007. I guess around the time when Eyeshield 21 was really big in Japan. It is a anime related to American football in which a group of Japanese high schoolers pretty much are playing it, and one particular player who is generally bullied and picked on is able to don a helmet that hides his face, and in that helmet he's able to be the fabled Eyeshield 21, a really good running back who developed the ability to juke and jive through groups of people by outrunning bullies. So it's an interesting purpose for a show that became an anime, or rather a manga that became an anime, which became a video game. And Ys is top-down hack-and-slash madness. So 2 completely different games, 2 very similar tracks. Alright, so the last tune I'm going to throw out here for you guys to check out is from the game Disgaea 2 Cursed Memories for the PlayStation 2. This track is titled Spread Your Wings, and it is composed by Tenpei Sato. Welcome back. You are listening to Spread Your Wings from the game Disgaea 2 Cursed Memories on the PlayStation 2, composed by Tenpei Sato, and followed up by Snow and Ice from the game Gadget Racers on the PlayStation 2. This one also was composed by Tenpei Sato. Now, Gadget Racers was originally released as Chorokyu High Grade in Japan for the PlayStation 2 in December 2000. And Disgaea 2 Cursed Memories came out on the PS2 in Japan on February 23rd, 2006. Again, two very different games in style and concept, with Disgaea 2 being a high number drawing strategy RPG series, and Gadget Racers / Chorokyu / Penny Racers, whatever you want to call it, is a franchise built around the concept of old classic penny racer cars. Those little tiny cars where you slip a penny into it, tip it backwards, roll it back, and let it ride. But I was really surprised by this one. This was another case of tracks that I was just listening to one day and like looking for tracks for an episode of Rhythm and Pixels, and listening to Snow and Ice, I was like, no, this is too familiar. Something's up. And I did some digging, did some backtracking, and I knew the sound because Tenpei Sato is my boy. I wish I could say we were boys as in we had beers together, but you know what I mean. I just like dude's music. Anyway, listened to a bunch of his stuff, went back and checked out some old tracks that I figured had a similar sound. And in this case, I feel like Disgaea 2, compared to other Disgaea games, had a distinct type of music that didn't really come out in Disgaea 1 or 3. So it was an easy thing to pull back to and go, this was the one. And sure enough, they sounded very similar. So, I don't know. Is this one of those cases where Tenpei decided that he had a track, he liked it, and then he just wanted to kind of double down and reuse some of the sounds for his new track for Disgaea 2? Or did he just happen to kind of just do it? I mean, I can imagine being the composer himself, it's easy to get all this stuff jumbled in your head during the creation process, and you just kind of want to throw something together. And that kind of goes for a lot of us too. Like if you think about music that you want to drum out to on a desk or something, which you at the time might consider to be an original composition, you might instinctively just throw together tunes that, or a sound that came from other things you've listened to over the years, because it's all bottled up there somewhere, and you might not even remember where you heard it from or when you heard it. But it has a way of eking out and just kind of letting loose when you want to let some flow hill, you know? Anyway, this is pretty much the roster that I had in mind for sound-alikes. I kind of want to do more stuff like this, but as you can probably surmise, this isn't an easy topic to choose for, because you literally have to just kind of come across them in your adventures. So if that happens again, well, hey, Sound-alikes Part 2. This time is personal. But if you guys out there have listened to any music tracks that have similar similarities in mind, let us know at the show, rhythmandpixels@hotmail.com, or let us know in the Discord or the Facebook groups. It'd be pretty cool to have other people come together. We can work as a collective and be like, hey, here are a bunch of sound-alikes. Because, quite frankly, I think it would be a great time and a lot of fun to see how many of our favorite game composers and compositions have, I don't know, kindred spirits out there, if you will, for music. Anyway, this has been Rhythm and Pixels, the video game music podcast. I hope that you guys enjoyed listening to these sound-alike tracks. I apologize if this wasn't particularly hilarious or witty or anything like that. But I gotta tell you, I try to do live streams and all that kind of stuff over the years. And while I can get a little silly when the time calls for it, deep down, I need my buddy. I mean, Rob and I, we riff off each other. We get along. That's what we do. I mean, it's one thing to just sit there and talk into the void, which is what I'm kind of doing now. It's another thing to be talking to your best friend and just kind of gabbing it up a bit about things you like. So I think next time we get together, it'll be like the old Rhythm and Pixels show. But this was a little bit of the Pernell Fly Solo Dolo experiment. And like I said, though it wasn't as high quality and on the mark, I hope you guys still was able to enjoy what came out of it. Also worth noting, there's no edit button over here, so all my stumbles and flumbles, You can thank Rob for cutting that out of the live show. Have a good night, guys. And remember, just because you're not perfect doesn't mean you shouldn't give it a try. It's all about wanting to do something and putting in the effort to get it done. And even if you don't get it exactly the way it should have been done, or you didn't get it to exact perfection, giving it a try is still better than never getting started at all. Believe that.